Welcome to the Get a Grip on Life podcast, Kory Livingstone.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I love in studio ones. They're always the best. I do a lot of virtual studio work where the person comes in on the internet, but it's always nicer to be with the person in person.
Oh, so you see them on there like the computer camera, or is it
We're
just
right up here? So we'll be up there.
Yeah.
We'll
When you do virtual, though, is it on the computer or just on the phone?
No, it's they would be up there. Their face would be in the entire screen there, and we'd be talking like this, and they would see me. They would see the close-up that you saw of me when we were setting up the cameras. Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
It's pretty common. I mean, it's a Google Hangouts, Skype. You can do all that sort of stuff. It's just this program allows you to record it and switch multiple feeds and so on and so forth.
That's neat.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
Neat.
So tell me a little bit. Are you an immigrant to Canada?
Nope.
No, you're born in Canada.
Well, let me tell you a story.
Okay.
My mother on my great grandmother and my grandmother on my mother's mother.
Yeah.
Okay. She's part Aboriginal.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I trace part of my lineage back to Canada's First Nations.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Do you know what tribe?
Black Hawk. And then when I say that, I can tell you now, you can get off my land. I like to say that.
So my mother's families are actually descended from refugees from the American Revolution. So if America ever signs the United Nations Law of Perpetual Return, I got a land claim for myself in Massachusetts, brother.
Well, my lineage doesn't stop there. My mother's father's from Georgia.
Okay.
So that's going back on that side.
Sure.
So going back to the States again, and I've actually one of my plans to go back there and look it up because he moved from there. Actually, he had to get out of town in a hurry, and he came to Canada. Okay, and that's where he met my grandmother, etc., etc.
Fell in love. The rest is history.
The rest is history. They had 8 kids and all that stuff. And actually, he was a family court judge in London, Ontario.
Wow.
And he started a newspaper called The Dawn of Tomorrow. And the interests, and the byline was the interests of the darker races. That's what it was. So he kept in touch. It was a lifeline between the black communities that were spread out right across Canada. So that newspaper, and it had a circulation of about 40,000 at one time.
Wow.
So he started that, and he also kept in touch with the...
and when was this? Was this, what, 19...
He came here around 19 and the teens. I think probably in the 1920s.
So he's kind of Harlem Renaissance time.
Yeah, he would be there. Now, he died, my mom was about 18, I believe, in the hospital. Routine operation, whatever they did, didn't come out right anyways. So that was his legacy. He passed that newspaper along, his wife and 8 children. They published that up to about 1972. Kept it going.
You know, it's interesting, the period of time. So when I was in university, I dropped out. I'm a university dropout. Blah blah. Long story short, I'm an exclusive club of university dropouts, which include Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and a bunch of other guys. But I'm joking about that, although that's true. It's interesting. The period of time between, say, the First World War and Jackie Robinson is an understudied time in African American history.
It's a rich culture. You got your Langston Hughes in there.
Langston Hughes.
He was one of my mother's favorite poets.
Negro Speaks of Rivers is one of the great American poems of all time.
The Dunbar Speaker. My mom was an actress.
Okay.
Actually, she was. It's probably time for another show. But anyways, and last year, Canada Post struck a stamp in her honor.
Is that right?
To honor the work that she did for the black community.
What was her name?
Kay Livingstone.
Okay.
Kay. Her real name's Kathleen. But I remember when she died, the church was filled to capacity. But if you look her up on the internet, and they also dedicated a plaque in her honor just down the street from where we grew up in her residence in Bedford Park here in Toronto. And
Wonderful.
acknowledging the work she did for not only the black community, she honored the whole. She's the person. Have you heard of the phrase "visible minority"?
Sure.
She coined that phrase,
Wow.
and she worked not only for black community, but she worked for the whole community of people who were not represented. Her goal was to for diversity, make diversity commonplace in Canadian society. And this was she started her trip in, I guess, the early 50s. And you can look around in Toronto, and that dream has come true.
I was going to say, your first line here is that Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the entire world. It's interesting that you point that out, because a couple times on my lighting show, I have to explain to people from, say, Des Moines, Iowa, or Colorado, somewhere in the Midwest, Western United States, like not East Coast, but even the East Coast. I don't think there's any city in the United States that compares to the pure diversity of the city of Toronto.
It's and I like to say my mom had a big hand in that. She's the one. Like she was doing the Privy Council of Canada appointed her. Well, the story before how she got on there, Canada. Some Canadians, I forget what it was, appointed her to represent women. There was a national women's meeting, Congress in Canada, and they invited her to go on this. And then she knows when she got there, I'm the only minority person here, and she brought that to their attention. And so the Privy Council made her a one-woman commission to go from Canada east to west, informing minority women of their rights. And that was one of her things that she was.
And when is this? Give me a time frame.
This would be in the 60s.
Wow.
She was really active. She was a chairperson of the United Nations group here in Toronto. She was the chairwoman of the YWCA for Canada. She was a consultant for Toronto's legal aid system. She was on the Council of Churches, Canadian Churches. She started when she first came to Toronto from London via Ottawa, where she went my dad to Toronto. She joined it was a social club called the Dilettantes Club. And those days, people belonged to clubs, and this was a club for black women. Okay. With dilettantes, and they would have teas,
Sure,
and dances and dinners just to go along. And I belonged to. She thought they could do much better than that. She was interested in pioneering the rights of black people, changing the stereotypes that media had of black people. She was interested in education for black youth, and she said we can do better than that. So she inaugurated the Canadian Negro Women's Club. So she changed the Dilettante Club into that, same members, Canadian Negro Women's Club. And their motto was, it later became the Canadian Negro Women's Association. Their motto was lifting onwards and upwards, lifting as we climb.
Interesting.
And they started one of their projects they started was called Calypso Carnival.
Okay.
And it was the first public exposition or display of black culture in Canada. You'd have your where the Irish had their St. Patrick's Day and all this stuff. But so we had this. Now we know Calypso Carnival now.
Sure.
As Caravana.
Sure.
So she was the instigator of that and so many things. I mean, she was, excuse me, in the late 60s, early 70s, she was invited, when Queen Elizabeth made her first tour of Canada, she was invited to the royal luncheon, the royal dinner, her and my dad. So she was a real workhorse. And she didn't do it for glory. She did it because she had a goal.
Can I make an observation about something you said?
Yeah.
So I mean, I just wrote it down very quickly here. I think a lot of people brush this off, and I had another person of color on this show talk to me about this as well, and I thought it was interesting. You said that your grandmother went to an event hosted by Canada and was the only non-white woman in the
Not my grandma, my mother.
Your mother.
Yeah,
Was the
Kay Livingstone.
Kay Livingstone was the only non-white person in the room,
Yeah.
right? And it's interesting because a lot of people brush that off. They think, well, what's the big deal? Nobody cares. I'll tell you this. Most white people have never been the only white person in any room.
You got it.
I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Like in their lives.
In their lives.
It's never happened to them.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me twice where I was one of two, one other person, and then once alone.
Yeah.
And it actually is an interesting scenario to walk into.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It wasn't dangerous for me or anything like that, but you definitely notice right away. And people say, well, I don't see skin color, whatever, buddy. Walk into a room of something where you're the only of that, the only man, or the only white person, or the only whatever, and you'll feel a difference right away. And it's interesting that in these halls of power or whatever you're going, your mother notices instantly, you know what? This is something that I want to change, or I want to help Canada change.
Well, it wasn't unusual to notice that.
At the time? Oh, for sure. No. I mean, yeah, totally. I totally
Like,
understand that.
on her part. I mean, it would be for a white person, but for, in those days, colored people.
Sure.
You know, I always ask, well, your color, well, what color are you? You know.
I'm like, I don't know.
But that was de rigueur. That was normal.
Sure.
You know, you always prepared. You always knew you were going to be. Hey, I went to school, and I tell kids this when I speak to them.
This is in Bath, right? Oh no, in high school. He just Bach. Sorry, I mean the high school Bach. Sorry, I'm like
Yeah. Well, forget high school. All through my education, even up through university. Forget being the only black person in the class. You're only the black person in the friggin' school. Okay, so you grew up with that. And then I speak to high school kids today, and I talk about diversity. I say, look around. Look around. Raise your hand if you or your relatives are from another country. 95% of the people in the room, hands go up. Raise your hand if you speak another language at home. Again, most of the class goes up. And then I show them a picture when I was in grade 6.
Sure.
Just one little dark speck on the sea of white. And I say, this is how we've changed.
Sure.
They're blown away.
But let me ask you is it all good?
What's all good?
I mean, when people say, and this is a tougher question. I just ask it because is that much diversity in a society good inherently? Because I think a lot of people walk into this, well, it must be good because it's diverse. I'm not sure. I think there needs to be some cohesion too.
See, you're forgetting one word.
What's that?
Unity.
Well,
diversity.
Hang on. Well, I had Shelley Carroll in here, who was a local city councillor, and she was saying that those individual communities are having she's having a very time getting them to relate with each other.
That's if you put the Italians there, the English there, the French there. We're going on the white side, right?
Sure.
Germans there. Nothing's going to change. They're still going to have troubles.
In Europe, yes, but not here.
Well, even here. You look going back to Canada. The Irish lived in this part of the town.
Sure.
Even look today. People from India and Pakistan live here. The Chinese all live here. It's human nature.
Are you saying birds of a feather flock together, Kory?
Hey, it's normal, but you see, but the problem, what you're not looking at, it's not to the point of exclusion. Okay.
But why? Let me ask you this: why would it be like so? There is I would say if it's fair, I don't even know if I can say white community. I don't know if that's even a word. But if you look, there's something called 905ism, or people that are leaving Toronto because of the diversity. Don't kid yourself here for a second, okay? Moving to other areas further north and to the east. Why is it so acceptable for us to talk about where people of this heritage live and where people of that heritage live, but unacceptable to say, people of the Caucasian heritage like to live together too? Why is that so unacceptable? And I'm not saying I believe in that. I actually moving back from those areas because I'm sick of it. But I like the diversity personally. But why is it so wrong for that to happen?
Well, I'm
challenging you.
Yeah, my experience on that. I mean, you can live together, but see, white people. Unfortunately, the white population has got racism down to a well-defined science. Okay, you can take the big picture,
Sure,
and you can think of an atom which may have 10, 20 different levels.
sure.
So we'll get you on the level 10, normal. But you've come to level 10. We better go to level 9, and then they keep going. So and what an example of that is this. Yeah, you can go to you can have a white community over here, but somebody from a different culture comes in. Oh, look who moved down the street, or look who moved over. Oh, hope another one doesn't move in, because I know this is how they think, as I've seen, and another one moves in. Oh, there's too many.
I disagree with you. I don't.
Oh,
think that's
I've seen it happen.
I don't think it happened. I think that was what happened.
Exactly.
But I don't think that's what it is anymore.
But this is where it came from.
Okay.
And the people who acted like that, we're only talking 50, 60 years. We're not talking centuries. Sure. Okay, when my mom was when we were, and it still goes on today, and well, just look.
But here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. So what you said is that, it's great because there's these pockets where Asian people live and these people live here, but it's not okay for white people to do that. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah,
that all of a sudden it's wrong.
I've never said it's not okay for white people to live together. I've just seen what they do.
I don't think it is. I think the idea of it is repulsive to most people.
Well, I've never.
However, there is a phenomena of it happening.
Yeah. Well, that may be so the case, but you see, that's still from that legacy. Because I'll tell you.
But what I'm asking you is not that. What I'm asking you is that why do we celebrate these Chinatowns and these other areas, the people of Southeast Asian heritage live here, and the people of Chinese and other Asian heritage live here, and this is so wonderful. But if you were to say, and the white people live in Uxbridge. Whoa, what are you talking about? That's so awful. How dare you? Why is that?
I cannot speak to that because that's not how I think. I just know that's what is. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I don't when you look at it, the white people came and populated this mostly white.
Sure.
Populated. So they're there already. Okay? And I've never really given any thought if they want to move there, because it doesn't really matter. What you have to look at, if somebody else moves in there that's not of their culture, how do they react? That's what you have to look at, and I've seen that firsthand. I had it years ago. I'm talking maybe 30 years ago. I used to teach piano, and I would go privately to lessons in Agincourt. It was all white. Okay?
Not now.
Nope. Then. And I wasn't aware of it then, but the Chinese population was slowly trickling in. Mm-hmm. And the boy I taught, his mother said, "We're moving. Too many Chinese coming in."
Sure.
But you see, this is the reaction.
Don't think that doesn't happen in 2019.
Yes, but you see, this is what I'm talking. It's not that the whites want to go. You can have all the white community you want, but as soon as somebody else wants to go that's not of their culture, wants to come in there, then they pack up and leave. That's what it is.
But is it wrong? That's what I'm asking you.
It's not wrong. It's racist.
Right, but why is it not racist the other way around? No, what I'm saying is that we celebrate these visible minority communities.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the visible minorities, when a white person comes into their community, they don't say, I'll see you.
Yeah, I get it.
So
I get it. I see it.
And people do that no matter where you're from.
I see what you're saying now. I get it. I didn't understand what you were saying, but now I get it.
But if you're French or German, I know there's a German community and I feel at home, so I'm going to move close to them. This is natural human behavior. You move, but the dividing line is, or the thing is, when soon as somebody else comes in, you're going to put something on their lawn, or you're going to make fun of them, or call them names.
I think you're more likely just to move. Like, I think that's what happens now.
Well, there you are.
So here's a theory I have.
But like I say, the white population has got this down to a science.
I agree with you. I actually understand what you're saying now. But so I think that racism is a spectrum, and I think everybody's on it. I don't actually think someone's racist or not. I think there's people that everybody's on a spectrum, okay? And nobody's free of it. No matter what they say to you, I think you go from like a 10 who's like a guy who's a white supremacist asshole, and then from there you go down to people that let's say a 2 would be a white person that wants to live in a mostly white community. You understand what I mean? And then you get to a 1, but you're never free of it. You're never free of it. There's something to it that you never get away from it. You know what I'm saying? You're on and I think all cultures are, all peoples are.
To a degree, we want to be with people who are like us, but it's been made, like I say, a science in North America because, again, my observation, it's the white population that spearhead. I mean, if you look at all the hate, okay, that's generated in North America, it's spearheaded by the white culture. They have got it down, like I said, to a science. If you look elsewhere, look at terrorists, for instance. Theirs is based strictly on an economic. They're using religion as a guise, right? We all know that, but it's basically, they don't, they want to bomb people, not because they're of this color or that, but they bomb them because, they're infidels.
Sure.
But that's just an excuse, a cover up, because at the heart they're just criminals. Okay, so whatever tool
they're
you
thugs.
can use,
yeah, I agree with that.
whatever tool you can use.
Sure.
But it's not, if to my mind, if you convert to whatever they want to, then you're okay. Okay, but that's an ideology in your mind.
Sure.
But the white form of race is based solely on things they can point out, visible. Okay, you look like this, you must be this. You have your face covered, you look like this. Okay, you talk like this. So there's no limit to the number of things that they can hold on to. That's why I say they've got this down to a science. They've got 10, 20, 30, 40 different levels. Okay? But it's sort of ingrained in the culture. And see, they don't realize. Everybody comes to North America. What for?
Prosperity.
Yeah, and what's the basis of that prosperity?
Democracy, free enterprise, and the rule of law.
No, it's not.
No? Okay.
You know what the basis of that prosperity is?
What's that?
Slavery. Slavery is the basis of the North American prosperity. You know that the first mass consumer commodity, do you know what it was?
I'm going to find out right now.
Cotton.
Yes, for sure. Okay.
You know how much cotton was worth, how much the United States was producing around the start of the Civil War, 1860?
A lot.
Take a guess.
You talking about tons of cotton here?
Monies. Yeah, talk about tons. What do you want? Talk about value.
I don't
Value.
know. I don't know, man. I mean, and I'm sure it was on the backs of slave labor in the southern plantations.
110%. The population of the slave labor in the United States in the late 1700s was about 700,000 slaves.
Okay.
That's free labor.
Sure.
And what do you think they were picking? Cotton.
Sure.
By 1860, the population, slave population in the United States was 4 million.
Mm-hmm.
At the height, per year, cotton, in today's dollars, they were producing $76 trillion a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much cotton was worth.
Mm.
That enabled Canada, they enabled United States to borrow money from anybody they want.
Mm.
Why? Because, if you have money, if you don't need the money, you can borrow it.
But Kory, Canada's the land of the Underground Railroad.
Oh, I'm going to tell
We're
you.
the destination of it.
No, just hold on a second. We're going to get to Canada next.
Okay. All right.
Okay. This was the economic backbone of the United States.
Okay.
The Industrial Revolution
Sure.
started where?
I thought it started in Britain.
In Britain.
Yeah.
You know where they got their cotton?
They got it from the southern United States.
And how much?
A lot.
About 80%.
Yeah, sure.
United States had a monopoly on cotton. They produced half of France's cotton, a quarter of Russia's cotton.
Sugar, too.
Well, we forget the sugar. I'm talking cotton.
Sure.
76 trillion. You know how much 76? I couldn't. I had to figure out how much that
That's a
buys.
lot of money.
That'll buy you
The entire U.S. stock.
1,000 CN towers that cost about $63 million each.
Yeah, no, I mean, the entire, that amount of money.
That's the prosperity. It was built on this is the legacy of those enslaved Africans. That's the prosperity of the that got United States. That's what makes United States, that's what gave them their prosperity to go and be where they are now. So it's this legacy that people from all over the world come to build a better life. It was founded on the backs of African slaves. Nothing else. And people don't know that.
I disagree with you on that. But we're going to have to agree to disagree on that. I think it's founded upon, the prosperity of North America is founded upon the lack of an aristocracy. I think it's founded upon mobility, the ability for one to become rich without.
On the backs of slaves.
I think that.
Yeah, that's how they became rich.
Yeah, but no, I don't think it's founded upon that.
It is.
That was a travesty of
It
the
is.
history.
But that's how they got their economic power. They didn't say
I agree that was a lever. That was
a
definitely
lever. It
Yeah,
was
for sure.
free labor.
But the South was destroyed and ended up in economic ruin after the war.
Let me take you one step further.
Sure.
Aetna Insurance, one of the biggest insurance companies. There's one of the big stock companies now. Which one of them got in trouble? Anyways, there's a half a dozen biggest banks in America.
Okay.
And insurance companies.
I'm trying to remember the name of the American insurance company that was in big trouble. It's escaping me right now.
You know where their links go back to?
I'm going to guess back to slave trade in the United States.
Damn right. Insured slaves. They lent farmers money. Okay, and they're surviving today. Okay, got started in the slavery. There's
AIG is who you're thinking of. American International Group.
That's another one.
No?
They could be on, but you had to feed 4 million slaves. It was mostly pork and corn. It came from the West, Western United States. The southern people had to have manufactured goods. Came from the North. The southern people would send the cotton to the east. To East Coast to be raw cotton to be turned into textiles and linen, which would be sent to the North, which sent that again to the South. So you had this whole cotton trade based on interstate trade based on cotton that united the United. That's what united the United States. This trade, all fueled by cotton, and that's the prosperity that people come and people, because you're fed all this BS. Oh, we work hard and do that. You didn't work hard. You didn't work. You'd millions of people working for you for free. That's like a big company.
So why is Brazil not as rich as the United States then? Brazil has the same situation and worse. They didn't end the slave trade, I think, till the early 20th century.
I haven't studied Brazil's history, and if I did, I could probably get you an answer. And you could say same thing for Britain. Why isn't Britain as big as the United States?
Well, they don't have the same natural resources.
They own. You were saying the sun never sets on the British.
I think we're gonna have to disagree on that, but I understand the point. Let me ask you this: so we have come a long way, and Canada's a different nation than the United States. So, and the interesting thing is, like, especially a city of like Toronto, where, you know, how is it okay to say black people? Is that okay? I get in trouble sometimes.
You know, that's an ongoing question.
Okay, so but here's what I say: the people that are of African heritage in Toronto are different than most of the people that are African Americans. So in Toronto, you got people from the Caribbean, you got people from Africa, all over Africa. You got people and it's a different vibe than it is with, you know, African Americans and and white Americans than you have in Toronto. I think Canada's a totally different history with respect to race relations in the United States. Would you not agree with that?
Do you know how many slaves the CN Railroad had employed?
But not African slaves.
African descent slaves.
I know there was a lot of Asian situations, but
talking about CN Railroad.
No way. Yeah, sure.
They had, I think it was, let me just get this.
Slave labor?
Slave labor. Okay?
In Canada.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. I told you before. We're going to get to Canada, okay? And I say this, and I give my talk.
I'm getting a history lesson here.
Yeah,
folks.
You're going to hit. Well, see, this is see, this is the thing.
Sure.
In school, they teach you the white history. This is why you have to celebrate the Chinese history, the African history, the Vietnamese history, because the white history.
And we have to celebrate the white history too.
Yes, but exclusive. We have been studying the white history exclusively.
Yes.
And when I say exclusive, we exclude.
Sure.
So this is why you have to recognize this culture and that culture.
Let's get this to the Canadian National Railway. When were they using slave labor?
In the beginnings, they had I'll get the exact number, but it was in the thousands.
Not chattel slavery like was happening in
I'm
the United
talking
States.
about, yes, working for the railroad for no money. That's called slavery.
Okay.
When you work for nothing, it's called slavery.
Okay, yes, but there's different like the chattel slavery. Like people like to compare the slavery that happened in the United States and in Brazil and in these countries to the history of slavery. And the slavery that happened in North America with the First Nations and the Africans was a form of slavery that was far worse than most.
The First Nation, they didn't enslave. They tried to eradicate.
In the Caribbean, they did too.
They tried to well, when you look at slavery in North America and the Caribbean, it's all part and parcel of the same piece of pie. Only, you know where lynchings were invented?
In the United States?
No,
where?
In Jamaica.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They weren't. The guy, you know how got named?
John Lynch.
Exactly.
Lynch, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
United States, like I say, they took this and refined it because they saw, hey, if you're making $76 trillion every year, you're going to make sure that you're going to hold on. You're not going to let anybody interfere with that. That's my cash cow.
I know, but there's definitely
But the history. See, people are so ignorant of the history. You know, This is.
Well, I mean, I'm ignorant to slavery in Canada.
Exactly. Exactly. John Graves Simcoe. John Graves Simcoe had slaves here in Canada.
African slaves in Canada.
African slaves in Canada. You gotta Scott, know your city. You gotta know your city.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff named after Simcoe, man. The lake and a lot of stuff.
Yes, there is, and that's
Scott,
why.
Can you verify that while we're listening here? You gotta verify that.
Yeah, you go look, and that's why they're tearing down all these statues in BC because they're praising all these great white men who did great things in the eyes of white people, but in the eyes of humanity, absolutely horrific. That's why these statues are coming down. Okay, one by one. It was okay then because you were in control. Now diversity is saying, hey, you don't own history of the world, your history, and you can't ignore my history.
Sure.
Because I'm here.
Yeah, you are here.
Yeah. No, I'm talking in general.
No, I agree.
And this is what it's done, and this is why unity and diversity, we also make up part of the world. It's not the white view on the world is so skewed. Just even views in North America of what life is and should be. The more I travel, I say, man, what a screwed up. We think we're living in one of the best places in the world. We think we have it all. TVs, radios, cars, this, that. We have all this. You know what it is? It's only material. The soul has been completely sold out, switched for commodity goods. I don't listen to the radio anymore. They're always trying to sell me something.
Yeah, sure.
Buy.
Sure.
TV, when I watch TV, and I have 2 or 3 channels going. As soon as the ad comes on, click. In North America, the people are morally and physically sick.
I totally agree with you on that.
This is the best life. We have a superior life than everybody else. It's pathetic. I was on a cruise.
I think there's 2 ways to look at that. I think the answer to that question is yes and no. I think it depends on how you look at it.
We've been trained to be greedy.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And that's the only way. There's no 2 ways of looking at cultivated greed. The more I have, the better I'm better than you because I have more stuff. Yeah, you've got more material and you've got more disease. You've got more mental health issues.
I was going to say.
Yeah, you've got
of all the things
diabetes,
I think of all the
asthma.
Of all the things we've sold, I think it's the soul we miss the most, Kory.
They don't even miss it. Don't miss it.
There you go. Maybe.
Not maybe. They don't miss it.
I think more North Americans of all there's more similarities between Canadians and Americans than Canadians want to admit. I think that's important to know. But I think, there's definitely a purposeful weight and a lack of spirituality in North America and in the West in general that is hurting us badly, for sure.
It's not a lack.
It's an abandonment.
It's a destruction.
There you go. I agree with you.
Not a lack. It's just destruction. I rather, I was on a sea cruise a couple of months ago, and it left out of Galveston.
That's in South Carolina, Galveston? No.
Texas.
Texas, okay.
I was blown away by the number of big, fat people.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I don't mean to shame anyone here, because some people get shamed, but being obesely overweight is unhealthy for you.
No, I'm not talking about 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, the whole thing.
I'm talking at least 25% of the 4,000 people on this ship were fat. Let me find out. They were when you're getting that fat, you were just plain greedy. Because I had a meal in Texas once at one of these at a restaurant, and the meal they gave me, 3 of us ate it. It was for 1 person.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But this is how they eat.
Yeah, I know. It's
and no wonder there's all these fat people. And so that's just,
And you know what it is? It's not, and we don't want to shame anybody here.
No, I'm not shaming. I'm just observing.
But I know what you're saying, because you go on these cruises or you go to these resorts, okay? Yeah. And this was interesting. I'm not as comfortable. I used to love to go to Cuba when I was younger, or to the Dominican Republic.
I love Cuba.
I love Cuba too, actually. But you go to these places, and the people live in such poverty there. And you have this buffet of food, and you see these people disgusting. Stuffing their faces with booze and food, and it just stands in such stark contrast to the poverty. It's very difficult for me to deal with.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that. Forget about stuffing.
And I hate to say it, Scott. Again, I'm not shaming anybody. You see these overweight people from North America of all colors and creeds, and they're at the buffet, and these people, they make maybe what? I don't know what they make, but they're living in poverty, in severe poverty.
But worse than that, worse than stuff in your face, they get up from the table, their plate is half full.
Yeah, for sure.
In the garbage.
Yeah, for sure.
They just went there and piled up literally
there's something
7 or 8 inches high because I can.
Yes,
that's worse.
I'm offended by that, and I understand what you mean when what you're talking about. It's like there's a sense of gluttony in it all.
Sense, not even more of a sense. It is.
It is gluttony. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the 7 deadly sins. Let me. You know what? We've had a heavy conversation. Can I change gears a little bit here? Because I'm really loving talking.
Try.
To you. But how does I see music is maybe the highest form of human art. There's something about music, the foot tapping. There's something about the cultural vibrations that come from it, the subterranean underground, that music seems to flow through us all in some way. What is it about music that touches you and that there's something, obviously I've read your biography here, there's something transcendent about music for you. What is it?
You know what?
That transcends race and ethnicity and country and everything.
I'll tell you something in this. It's just following up to connect the two ideas. You know how they used to use canaries in the coal mines?
Sure.
Music, pop music, is the canary of human culture.
I agree with you on that 100%.
And you look at the state of pop music today.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's not even horrible.
It's anti-music.
It's anti-music, and it's not even made by humans.
Yeah, it's machines making it.
And people are, the popular culture is sucking it up.
Yeah. But you know what it is? Here's what I would say. I think the music of a generation reflects the soul of the generation.
Oh, boy.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And you see how dark that is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, you look at the type of music we're creating today, and I did another podcast with another fellow just about this topic, and he's a musician. He's like, people they're not expressing themselves in a deep and meaningful way. They're expressing their Facebook page.
Because you know why? You know what the logo is for young people? You ask them what they want to be, doctor, lawyer, whatever, what they want to be? Famous.
Yeah, fame is such a dark...
I don't care. I want to be famous.
Yeah.
So I'll,
whatever it takes.
Okay, yeah, you look right. We can do this, we do that. And all you have to do is, you've got the look. We're going to make you a star. That's all it is. That's all. But, again, that's North America's perversion. Okay? You go to Europe, music is a whole different set of values. It is actually conserved. I was in Paris a couple of years ago, and I went to a jazz club, French jazz club. I'm telling you, I was blown away. You don't need no Wynton Marsalis. You don't need no Grady Tate. You don't need no whoever. The French have conserved, and that's because of World War II. The black musicians who were soldiers who took jazz to Paris in the Second World War. Mm-hmm. They have
and the first too, no?
Mostly the second. Okay, could have started in the first because people went there, but the names that stuck there. They have taken jazz and they've conserved it. Not preserved it, they've conserved it. It's supposed to be. Go to Toronto. You think there's any jazz in Toronto?
I think there's no good live music. Like there's live music in Toronto, but you have to take a cab everywhere to get to it. There's no area where it's happening.
Forget I'm just talking outside of music. I'm specializing on the jazz because it's what they do in Paris. There's a few so-called jazz places, okay, but it's like the Montreal Jazz Festival. I mean, they have everything but jazz. Oh, well, okay, no, I shouldn't. They will have, if there's 100 acts, 10 of them will be pure jazz. Everything, it could be pop. They even had country and western. They even had stomping foots. I mean, it's not. Jazz is the word jazz is very attractive. You know, it's like
Sure.
saying sex.
Yeah, it is
Everybody
kind of. You know what? Jazz. You know what it is? Actually, you're right. It's kind of like a pseudo-sex term.
Yeah.
Jazz.
Yeah. Oh boy, I'm feeling something going there. Oh boy. Okay. So you do that,
It's true.
and everybody can come in. Okay.
Sure. There's
But
something erotic
yeah,
about the word.
But all through Europe, they have, but not only jazz, they have all the classical festivals. And in Europe, there's so many theaters where they put on live culture. That'd be music, dance, whatever. Here, you have maybe there's there's three that there's the Royal Alexandra, and there's 3 or 4 here, and owned by the same person, right? And they have a monopoly on who's coming, what it is, and it's all plays. You don't have this reverence for music, and the way kids are taught in school. Music there in school is very, very important. Here in North America, they're trying to find ways to cut the budget on education. So let's trim down the music program. Okay,
Sure.
Music. Even looking at United States, you look starting in high school. It's amazing. Every school has a marching band. Every high school, and the high school music teacher is just as important as the high school football player, a football coach, because they, for whatever reason, these marching bands proliferate north, east, west, and south, and it's serious stuff. In Canada, you're likely to have, you might have a school just orchestra or a school band, okay, and that's it. It's just the level, how music is, how it's internalized, and the respect it's given. It's just doesn't even compare when you go abroad. Okay, it just doesn't even compare. It's conserved in one places, another place over here. It's made a purveyor.
So what you said in your biography that you wrote here, it wasn't until your senior year of high school, and then that you discovered some deeper music, right?
Yeah.
And then you go ahead and you talk about, you put Bach, Beethoven, Thelonious Monk. I don't know who that is, but James Brown, Oscar Peterson, and Bill Evans, all in the, like, what is it about? That's a diverse crew of musicians right there. What is it about their music that you're bringing together that other people can't see?
Well,
is it an originality? Is it the expression of an idea?
Well,
is it the expression of a cultural zeitgeist? What is it?
Well, Bill Evans, who is white, and Thelonious Monk, who is black. So this is showing you that you're not looking at color. So both sides,
cross-sectional.
Everybody can do it.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
When they play, what attracted me to them, I can hear them think. As a musician, I can hear them. Oh.
You can see the composition in your mind or whatever.
No, I can. Oh, you clever. I just get the sense I'm in their workshop.
Okay.
I don't sit there. Oh, this is great stuff. It's not great because it feels great. I can actually appreciate. I can hear them thinking, and it's you can't touch it, and it's hard and hard to explain to a non-musician. But it's, when you're in the hands of somebody, could be a doctor, or say a dentist, or whatever, and you get the feel. I feel safe in this person. I get a sense that this person really knows what they're doing.
Sure.
That's the closest I can come to. But I can hear them thinking. When you're looking at Beethoven and Bach, Beethoven he was very, very emotional. Very emotional. You can hear in his music.
The Moonlight Sonata, isn't that Beethoven? You can hear it in the Moonlight Sonata.
Yeah. You look at Bach, jeez, Murphy.
Yeah.
This man, he was considered a stick in the mud during his lifetime. He was considered, if I brought, look, I'd be here today if I was wearing spats and
Sure.
and had my hair greased back and maybe a collar that you pin on. He was considered old school in his time. But he took the practice of the day, which was something called counterpoint, a certain style. Everybody that practiced it, if you go out, if you put a number on it, they went to probably a number 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Bach took it to a number 11. He manipulated the music. There's certain, and for people who are non-musicians, there's, what you do is there's an idea, a certain theme or an idea, and a tune. He would take a tune and he would accompany it with another tune to go at the same time, and maybe another one. And then they would all mix together and meet somewhere. But to make them, to coordinate and synchronize them, you have to have, talk about your multitasking. He was multitasking musically. He wasn't doing music and then cutting his hair and then,
Sure.
doing a painting. He was multitasking he was looking at one thing, one idea, 5 or 6 different ways and making it all happen at the same time. It takes pure intellect for that to happen. And he was like putting together a puzzle. And that's the attraction of him. So it wasn't just because, and the bottom line is music comes out great.
Yeah, sure.
Music's all about form. 100%. Anybody tells you anything else, they don't know what they're talking
I think I
about.
might raise the stakes on you on that.
Sure.
I think beauty's all about form.
No.
Any kind of beauty.
Beauty comes from, in music, beauty comes from form. In painting, beauty you may say it might come from color or whatever. But in music, this is why musicians are so some people say, what are you talking about? At their hearts, musicians are very well organized. And I would say more so, and I'm talking organized, I'm talking about in their life, and things they do, how they do things. Very well organized. Very, very, what's the word? Accountable. They are very, very stick to it. Because the music makes you do that. Because if you want to get your music, your idea done, you have to stick with it and work on it till it comes out the way that you intended it. You just can't say, oh, that's hard. Oh, I can't be bothered too much work, and off you go. So there's certain personality traits you'll get with music. And different types of musicians. A classical musician will be have a slightly different set. A complete different set than a pop musician. Okay. A pop musician is the first rule of thought, first thing that comes to your mind, can I make $1 million off of this song if I write this? Will this song make me $1 million? As opposed to, I want to write a beautiful. I've got an idea, and I want to turn it into something beautiful. Okay. As opposed to, first thought is, I want to write a 1 million hit seller. So that's day and night. Look at a jazz musician, right next to classical musician, because they both think the same. Form. The basis. That's why music is so attractive to people.
Well, you know what the thing about music is?
There's the form.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that everybody responds to music.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm talking about a response that's not like you start tapping your foot.
Yeah.
You maybe you move a little bit when you hear the right sound, right?
Yeah, but that's form. We as human beings have to have form. You have to know what you're doing today. You have to know what you're going to eat. You have to know what's going to happen at the end of the week. Not exactly.
So let me ask you this. Does our society to loop it back with does our society lacking form right now in general, and that's why people can't produce great music? That's why
it has form. It has form because that form is crap. Pardon the
Can it be changed?
It changes all the time.
It's in constant change.
It's just like politics. Who's ever in power? I've got what's that show with Simon? What's his name? The singing voice, The Voice, or America's Got Talent.
Okay.
He always says, "You mean I'm going to spend $2 million on you, and this is the crap you're going to give me?" He's got the $2 million, so he's going to tell you what you're going to sing. Okay, that's his form. Okay, and he's going to give you a form that he knows he can sell to other people, and it's candy, it's manufactured, it's processed food. Okay, but it tastes good. I like that salt. I like that sugar. But when you look, as opposed to the basis of music reflects the human soul. The humans need form. As soon as it turns into, what the heck is that? You say, because you're upset.
What is pop music then? So why is pop music so popular?
Pop music is, well, first of all, it's got its form.
Okay.
But pop music is a dictation of what music is going to be by people who have the money.
I get it.
There was about 20 years ago, there was 5 or 6 major music companies in the world. Sony, Warner Brothers, etc., etc. And what they told you to do, you did. Because they controlled the money, the venues, the recording, they made you a star. With the coming of the internet, people put their music on the internet and music is no longer bought albums, CDs. It's now on the internet, MP3s.
Yeah, but it's harder for the musicians to make a living than ever.
It's harder. It's just this. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
Okay.
Because when you were 30, 40 years ago, you had to spend 10. I mean, my first 45, I spent with the 2 songs, and it cost me $5,000.
And when was this?
About 30 years ago.
Okay.
I can do the same thing now.
Yeah, for sure, on your computer.
For free.
Yeah, sure.
In my own home.
Sure.
And I'll send it out to be tweaked. I'll do it and I'll send it out to be tweaked, and I'll spend maybe $500 to. So
I'll give you another example. So the way we do our virtual show and all that sort of stuff, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, to be able to do that would have costed $250,000.
Yeah.
But now you can do it for, not for pennies, but you can do it.
Yeah.
It's within reach.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a little bit, because can you believe we've been talking for an hour already?
Good heavens.
There it is right there. And I know you probably have other things to do, and so do I. So tell me a little bit about Quiet Determination.
Well, that's a book I wrote to find out what the word quiet determination means.
So it was a self-discovery process?
It was. About 15 years ago, I was setting up to do a do-it-yourself concert. And, with just the space. I had to put up curtains. I was always well equipped. Put up my own theater curtains, black velvet curtains. I had to hang my own lights. I'm doing this Saturday morning, up and down the stepladder, hanging. I had my box of tools, and all that stuff. I was waiting for the piano to come. I was renting a grand piano. Had to come in, had to be tuned. I had to get stuff ready for halftime. You got to sell some refreshments.
Sure.
So I'm getting all that arranged. And the band was going to come about 4 or 5 o'clock to have a rehearsal. So I'm doing all of this. And that's normal. Nothing unusual. About 2 weeks after the concert, I get a little note in the mail. It's on a little post-it note. It was blue, I think, 3 by 3. And on the note it says, I'm just going to paraphrase, dear Kory, I have admired the way in which you went about basically setting up. It was like you showed a quiet determination. He said, this is more than talent. It's an art. And this is what really struck me. I would do well to apply the same to my own life. And you know who wrote the letter? It was the building custodian who was watching me do what I do every normal. I thought it was very unusual, but for me it was normal. I kept that note. I said, what does this quiet determination, what does he mean? What does that actually mean? You know? And that was the genesis of the book. It sat with me for about 7-8 years. And so I sat down and just wrote, and it just flowed out. And what came to me was my life had been shaped by music. What I'd learned in music, I had applied unconsciously to my everyday life. Someone once summed it up, successful in music, successful in life. Same tools. It doesn't matter what profession you go to, what you do. All the tools were supplied in music. And actually it's the mindset. It's not put A here, put B there, do this, do that, which is, there's lots of people who tell you how to do that. But if you don't have the mindset.
You're talking about mastery. If you can master music, if you can master it, you can master anything.
But see, the thing is, you don't have to master music. You don't have to master it. You have to make the attempt. You have to go in there and do your best. Okay? Because you'll never be a master of music. Okay? You'll be damn good at it. But you will never master it, because once you've mastered something, you can go, there's something else. Once you go on over one hill, hey, there's another hill which you didn't see. Okay? And keep doing it. And this is one thing that changed my teaching career around, or my teaching, you could say that. Teaching, when you teach privately to kids, it's probably I got to get it to any private music teacher, piano, violin, whatever it is. They should all be given awards and medals for patience, stick-to-itiveness, because 99% of their students are, as musicians, frightful. They don't practice. They don't come prepared.
I totally understand what you're saying.
They couldn't give a hoot. And you're sitting there for a half hour. There's a half hour you have to wait. It's actually torture. But when I realized...
it actually is torture. No, I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen I have 4 kids. And but my children's music teacher comes to our house.
Yeah.
And he teaches my kids.
Yeah.
And the level of patience of this man to teach for 2 hours straight, because it's 4 half-an-hour lessons. Okay, I'd be throwing my kids out the window, buddy.
Yeah. But you see, when I realized I'm not teaching them music.
Yes.
I'm teaching them skills.
Yeah,
that
for sure.
Change. And I tell parents that. I don't care. Johnny doesn't have to be the best piano player.
Sure.
He can be the lousiest. But as long as he's gone and stuck to it, he's going to learn so much. It's going to make him a better lawyer, a better doctor, a better accountant, a better maintenance man. It doesn't matter. He's going to get some life tools. That's what you take music lessons for. The few, like myself, who go on to take it as a life calling, many are called.
Few were chosen.
Same in music.
Kory, where can people find your book?
They can get it on Amazon.
If they Google Quiet Determination,
yeah,
Kory.
Yeah.
That's Kory with a K. Kory Livingstone.
And actually, I'm having a new edition. The one on Amazon is called Quiet Determination, Unlocking the Gates to Unlimited Success. But I went with a new publisher a couple of years ago, and I've changed the title slightly. Quiet Determination, 15 Ways to Break the Barriers of Your Untapped Success. That's coming out in a couple of months. But the other one's on Amazon, and it's about 90% the same. I've just tweaked here and changed here some things, and also will be coming out on the digital version and an audio version, hopefully within the year.
So, folks, if you're listening to this right now and you're driving and you don't want to write it down or whatever, you just go to the website. It'll be on the link beside Kory's podcast. You'll see we'll have a link there for his book. And then also Amazon, anywhere else. Do you have a website, Kory?
Yeah, go to my website, and actually, if you I think there's on my website, but if not, you can email me and ask me. I can send you a free preview chapter for you to look at. Give you an idea what the whole how the whole book goes.
Kory, you're a true gentleman. Pleasure meeting you and speaking with you for an hour. It flew by like that. I can't believe it.
Yeah, boy, isn't that something?
Isn't it?
Talked about things I didn't think we'd talk about, but hey.
I told you, man.
That's fine.
I tell everybody, you never know what path we're going to go down on the Get a Grip on Life show. Kory, thanks for coming in studio.
My pleasure.
Really enjoyed learning about your family and all that and discussing some pretty heavy topics, but I learned a lot. Thanks again.
Good.